Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into something that might make you want to go ahead and schedule that eye appointment you've been putting off.
It's all about eyes today.
We're going to be talking about something called lattice degeneration.
Yeah. And you know what's really interesting about this one?
What's that?
It seems like it might have been way more common in the past.
Really?
Yeah, like way more common. So that's one of the things that we're going to try to unpack today. But to get us started, let's talk about what it is. So imagine your eye like a balloon.
Okay. A very fragile balloon, hopefully.
Right. And the retina is like wallpaper on the inside of that balloon.
Okay.
And so with lattice degeneration, what happens is that wallpaper gets a little thin and a little weak.
And that's not good, right?
Not necessarily. Usually it doesn't cause any problems, but it can. So we're going to get into all of that. And the thing about it is it usually happens kind of off to the sides, not in the center where you're looking.
So you might not even know that it's happening.
Exactly. A lot of times people don't have symptoms, especially in the early stages. It's something that your eye doctor would catch during an exam.
That's kind of sneaky.
It is, and that's why those regular eye exams are so important.
So how common is this? Are we talking like 1 in a million? Or is this like a lot of people?
More than you might think. Studies have shown that somewhere between 6 and 10% of people have lattice degeneration.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's like 1 in 10 people.
So there's a good chance I know somebody who has it.
Probably, yeah, and they might not even know it.
And we were saying it might have been even more common in the past, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that just makes you wonder what was going on back then that's different now.
Yeah, what could it be? I mean, is it our environments or something we're doing?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's definitely an interesting question. I mean, think about how much time people spend looking at screens these days.
Right.
Could that have something to do with it? Maybe? But let's get back to the why for a second. What causes those areas to thin out in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, that is the million-dollar question, and the truth is researchers don't have a definitive answer yet.
So it's a mystery.
Yeah, kind of. But that doesn't mean researchers are just giving up.
Right. What are some of the theories out there?
Well, one theory is that it has something to do with collagen.
Collagen, like
Yeah.
the stuff in all the skincare commercials.
Exactly. It's a protein.
Yeah.
And it's like a building block for connective tissues.
Okay, so is it like we're not making enough collagen or something?
Well, that's one idea. Another thought is that it's related to changes in the shape of the eye.
Oh, really?
Yeah, especially in people who are nearsighted. You know how nearsightedness often comes with an elongated eyeball?
Mm-hmm.
Some researchers think that that stretching could put stress on the retina and make those areas more likely to thin out.
Huh. So it's like if you keep stretching that balloon out, eventually the wallpaper is going to get thin and rip, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Interesting. So are there any definitive answers yet about what causes it, or is it all still kind of up in the air?
Well, we're still figuring it out, but one thing we do know is that nearsightedness is definitely a risk factor.
So if you're nearsighted, it's even more important to get those regular eye exams, right?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. So we've talked about what it is, what might cause it, but I think at this point, some people are probably wondering what's the big deal? Like if it's not really causing any problems, why should I even care about it?
That's a fair question, and it's a good thing to address because while it's usually not a big deal in itself, it can increase the risk of other more serious eye problems.
Like what?
So those weakened areas in the retina, they're more likely to tear or even detach.
Detach. Hold on, wait. Like peel off completely.
Yeah, it
Okay.
can happen. And that's when things can get a little more serious. And unlike lattice degeneration, which often doesn't have any noticeable symptoms, retinal tears and detachments usually do.
Okay, so retinal detachments. That sounds scary. But
Mm.
what kind of symptoms would you have for that?
Yeah, it's not something you want to mess around with, that's for sure. With retinal detachment, you might see what looks like a curtain being drawn across your vision.
Oh, wow.
Or you might see flashing lights.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely something I would notice.
Yeah, you would. And those are all signs that you need to get to an eye doctor, like, right away.
So if you're seeing curtains closing or flashing lights, it's straight to the eye doctor.
Absolutely. Don't wait on that one. The good news is, if it's caught, early retinal tears and detachments can often be treated very effectively.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
So I guess early detection is key here.
exactly. And that brings us back to those regular eye exams.
It all comes back to that, doesn't it?
It really does. It's always better to catch things early. But back to treatment for a second.
Okay.
So remember how we were talking about lattice degeneration being like weakened spots in that retina wallpaper?
Mm-hmm.
Well, with retinal tears and detachments, The goal of treatment is to basically reinforce that wallpaper before it can peel away from the wall completely.
So are we talking like tiny staples or something?
You're not too far off, actually. There are a couple of different ways they can do it. One is with laser treatment. They use a laser to make tiny little burns around the area of the tear,
Really?
and those burns create scars that actually help to seal the retina back together.
Wow, it's amazing what they can do these days.
It is. The other option is something called cryotherapy.
Cryotherapy.
Yeah, and basically they use extreme cold to freeze the tissue, which also creates a scar that helps to hold everything in place.
Interesting. So it's like they're kind of welding that wallpaper back onto the wall?
Pretty much. It's all about reinforcing those weak spots.
Okay, so to wrap things up today for our listeners,
hmm
what would you say is like the main takeaway from all of this?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that even though lattice degeneration itself usually isn't a big deal, it's a good reminder that it's important to take care of your eyes. Get those regular eye exams.
Yes, couldn't agree more. A little preventative care can go a long way. All right, everybody, that's it for this deep dive. We'll be back next time with another one. Until then, stay curious.